Welcome to the Inspiration North podcast, inspiring stories from inspirational people and how they found their passion, their true north. I'm James Eves.
And I'm Michelle Minikin, and this is the Inspiration North podcast.
Today's episode, Networking is Making Friends for Grown-Ups with Jeni Smith. We talk about how we need the small talk and awkwardness of networking, the challenge of showing ROI to managers for networking activities, and having proper banter with Prince William about Smurfs.
Jeni is passionate about connecting people. When people come together, powerful things happen. Relationships are built, knowledge is shared, and sparks of innovation are fired. With 15 years' experience in the networking industry, Jeni now teaches networking skills and creates networking strategies to help people come together and build effective long-term relationships. Between 2017 and 2019, she conducted 2 rounds of academic research with Durham University, exploring her unique strategic business networking model. The research results spurred her on to launch Networking Know Who, a new networking consultancy to help individuals and businesses become more confident, efficient, and strategic networkers. And Jeni truly believes that networking has the ability to change people's lives, unlock hidden potential, spark world-changing ideas, and be the catalyst for positive change, all starting with a simple hello.
So good afternoon to you, Jeni. We are really looking forward to chat to you today. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, we're all right. We're loving the sunshine today.
I know, it feels like spring has sprung and it's a fresh start for the world. It's lovely.
Totally agree. So with our first question then, when you were little, did you know what you wanted to be when you grew up?
When I was little, I think at different points, and I say different points probably on a daily basis, I wanted to be something different. I wanted to be everything that I was aware of, I wanted to be. So I very much wanted to be a ballerina. Always wanted a tutu, which I never got. And my mum I still bring it up with my mum on a regular basis. I wanted to be an astronaut. I've always loved space. This is when I was about 6, by the way, so I didn't actually know what any of those things entailed or the work that was involved to get them. But I loved the idea of all of them, exploring and traveling, and I wanted to, everything and anything, everything that I'd seen either on television or heard about as a kid, I wanted to try. And it was quite a mixed bag. It wasn't anything ever specific, like, that was obvious I should have gone down like the route of engineering or science or anything like that. It was kind of just things I found interesting and fascinating. Like, I was a bit of an odd kid, I guess. Thinking back, I had a rock polisher that I absolutely loved and would like collect rocks and then put it in this polisher, and it would have to go in the garage because it was so noisy. But you'd leave it for like 3 weeks, and then when you got to open it, these like amazing gemstones came out, and I just collected weird stuff like that. And I like playing with buttons, and I was a bit of an odd kid. Mixture of hobbies, which I think is good though. It's nice to have, a lot of different interests and things. But in terms of what I wanted to be when I grew up, I don't think I really still know what I want to be when I grow up. I don't think anyone does. You just kind of explore as you go along. And that's kind of what I've tried to do. And as I've come across different things in my career and in life, I'll explore them and see what I enjoy and then follow those, really. Yeah.
Best approach, isn't it? Like the curiosity, and I don't know, I say it's like a fixed mindset to just have one thing, but I really like the idea of just, I'll try this, and then if it doesn't work, I'll try something else and keep going. Yeah, I love it. So was there anything at school that you really liked that kind of stood out?
I always really like math. I'm quite a logical person, so I liked the logic that came with math. Although I love to talk, English isn't something that I particularly found easy. I've always quite struggled with reading, to be honest. Words, not that I haven't been diagnosed with dyslexia or anything, but words can easily jumble, and reading out loud I struggle with. So I always enjoyed the logic that came with maths. And English doesn't make any sense, to be fair. The rules most of the time don't apply. I love drama. I really like drama as well. I like being creative, and art I always loved. Again, getting to be creative and express myself. I was never like an art person in regards to like creating things that were original to like artwork. I always loved to draw and copy things. My dad was an artist. So I think I inherited that. My sister can't draw stick man, so she didn't get it, but her daughter can. So it skipped my sister and gone down to her little girl. So yeah, I had, again, a mixture of things at school, mixture of logic and creativity, I think. I enjoyed lots of different subjects. Yeah, but that was enabled me, I think, to have a lot of different groups of friends as well, which was really good. And I got to engage in different friendship groups. You know, when you're at school, there's, you know, certain people do the sports and others are more academic. And I was lucky in that I got to, you know, be friends with different groups of people because I had different range of activities and interests. So that was a good thing, I think.
Cool. I think that was very similar to us too, both. We just kind of, you know, friends with most people.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was next after school?
So after school, I didn't know. Again, I didn't know what I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. So after I was out of my kind of friendship group, the only one that decided to do A-levels. So I carried on studying, had a job since I was 16, worked in JD Sports and then Topshop and looked after a sunbed place. This was all in Carlisle. I grew up in a little village just outside Carlisle called Wetherell, which was beautiful. It was like Emmerdale, you know, it had a little village shop and the river ran through and it was very picturesque and lovely. But yeah, I got to 18 and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I decided to take a year out. And one of my mum's friends at work, her son had been through this program called GAP, which was a volunteer program. So I applied and then sent out letters to local businesses and asked them to sponsor me. So I was able to go, and I ended up living in Fiji with nuns and working in a deaf school, which wasn't really part of the plan, but it just happened. So I moved out to Suva, which is the capital of Fiji on the main island, and lived there with nuns who looked after the kids. So it was a special school. It was called Hilton Special School. And it was predominantly deaf children, but there was some disabled kids as well from all over the country, because it's a small country. There was very few schools for deaf or special children. So a lot of them lived with the nuns, which was where I ended up living while I did voluntary work at the school. And that was like a massive eye-opener, you know, going from a really small village in Cumbria to literally the other side of the world, completely different culture. You know, these kids I couldn't even communicate with when I first arrived because they use sign language, which I didn't know, but learned very quickly. And because I was white, they were like touching my skin, and I've got blue eyes, so they wanted to like be on me and touch me and like poking us. And it was really overwhelming. It was a massive culture shock, but it was without a doubt one of the best experiences and something that I'm so thankful for, especially at the age of 18. I meet 18-year-olds now and I think, how did I do that at that age? How did my mum let me do that at that age, going on my own? You know, it was with an organisation, and it was there was with other people my age from across the country who were placed in different schools around Fiji. So on weekends we could get together and stuff. But still, it was a massive eye-opener to the world, to different cultures, to different ways of life. And it made me appreciate everything that I had at home. Like, these kids had nothing, and they were the happiest kids I've ever met. They were the most grateful, thankful children I've ever encountered. And that was a big, probably turning point for me. And then after my placement there, I travelled an 18-year-old just on my own, which again, if you know, this was before Facebook, this was before you used to have to go to internet cafes to sit and like used to pay for an hour's internet access. It was before like mobile phones had cameras on, so we used to have to take cameras on, disposable cameras, get them developed and pay extra to have a CD, then go to an internet cafe, upload them onto the computer and then email them over so that my mum could even see what it looked like where we lived. So it was it would be very different, I think, if it was now. But in a way, I'm glad that I did it then, because I had that naivety, I think, to the world before I went. So it wasn't a scary thing at the time. It was more of just an exciting adventure.
I wasn't expecting. It's one of the great things when we hear everyone's story. We're talking about sort of Carlisle and the area in the northwest, and then all of a sudden it's like, and then I went to Fiji, which is
and just lived with nuns. The nuns were lush as well. They were so lovely. But again, it was a massive, probably colliding cultures, because I went from, being 18, going out drinking on a weekend with my friends and stuff, to then living with nuns, and we'd go out, on a weekend. And in Fiji, when we told them like that, they'd be like, "Oh, why are you here?" kind of thing, because you were white, and they'd ask why you were here, and you'd say, "Oh, we're working at Hilton Special School," and everyone would be like, "Oh," and then we got like, they wouldn't let you pay for anything. Like, these people hardly had anything themselves, but they'd give everything to you, and it was just such a wonderful place. The people, I just can't speak highly enough of. So yeah, we'd go out and go drinking, and you'd meet backpackers and people, and you'd dance and and get a bit boozy, and then come back and then have to sneak in while the nuns and the kids were asleep, and sneak through the kids' room to our room, and then get up the next day a bit hungover, and you've got like kids climbing on you going like, get up. So yeah, it was interesting, very different, but yeah, absolutely amazing experience, and one that I'd encourage like any young person to explore the option, because I wasn't ready for uni then. As I say, I didn't know what I wanted. And it gave me the chance. I grew a lot as an individual and got to become really independent. You have to when you're out in the world, literally in the world on your own. So yeah, absolutely amazing times.
That's brilliant. Okay, so you're back home. What was next?
Next was, what do I do now kind of thing. So came back, went back to working at Topshop like I did in Carlisle at the time, applied for uni in Cumbria to begin with, and decided I did business and computing, but then 6 months in, they realised they put me on the wrong computing class. So I only I finished the business module. So because I hadn't studied business A-level, I took that as kind of a foundation for business to kind of test the water, so it wasn't a waste. And then ended up moving to Liverpool to start uni properly, start from scratch. So I went to John Moores and again did business and finance. It kind of felt like a broad topic to cover. It covered a lot of different things and seemed to potentially lead down lots of different paths. And the only kind of thing that always stuck with me is the village I grew up in had that little shop, like I say, the little village shop. And I used to love going there with my 50p pocket money and getting a pick and mix. I always loved a pick and mix. And it was like old school, like you could either get pick and mix or you could get like, behind the person, there'd be the big jars, like a Beamish, but that was just normal there. It wasn't like ironic or retro. It was just how it was. So I always loved the idea of having my own little shop with all these different like treasures in and sweets and pick and mix and stuff. So business seemed like a sensible thing to do in order to try and achieve that dream, I guess. So I moved to Liverpool, and again, Liverpool was a big culture shock for me, being in the city. It was 2005 I moved there, and they were capital of culture 2008, like European capital culture. So the city was just absolutely buzzing with excitement and energy and music and art and sculptures, and you'd turn a corner and you just wouldn't know what we're going to see. And the rejuvenation that went on and the atmosphere with the people, I think, was a massive one. And Liverpool, Scousers are amazing at the best of times, but throw in the fact that their city was being highlighted as this capital of culture for Europe, and all this money was getting invested into it. It was just absolutely the perfect time to be there, it felt. So Liverpool as a place really impacted me, and it was the first time that I kind of saw entrepreneurship as an option. It wasn't something that I'd been subject to before, either. Like, growing up, my mum was a nurse, my dad was a postman, we lived in a small village in a small city, and jobs, I try and think back to what I was taught at school, at secondary school, as job options. But there's nothing, I think, that you couldn't find off a list like probably like nurses, doctors, looking after kids, admin, just those kind of things. I don't know if that's something to do with, being a woman, or if it was just, I don't know, the roles that were kind of highlighted in the curriculum at the time. I don't know, but entrepreneurship wasn't one that I'd ever kind of come across really before. So Liverpool really highlighted starting a business and running a business as a viable option, which absolutely blew my mind, because seeing people who were not that much older than me doing it, and there was, business support was available, you could get grants at the time, and there was all kinds of stuff, and it just felt like, oh, well, if these people can, then I can as well. And that was a game changer for me. It opened up all these ideas for the first time on what I could potentially do, and in an exciting city surrounded by people who were doing the same thing. So that was a game changer. And then in Liverpool was also when, met the world of networking for the first time, which obviously led me down this path of networking love and obsession almost. And at first it was something that I hated. It terrified the life out of us. To be fair, I was really hungover the first time I went networking, and no one had warned me about what to expect. And I was just thrown in this room full of grown-ups, I thought, in suits, talking about business. And I was still at uni, didn't understand what the etiquette was, what was, how to talk to these people that I felt so disconnected from. So I just hid in the toilets most of the night, to be honest, in the first networking event. But it got better. And obviously, long story short, it's now my kind of life's work, essentially. But Liverpool was where that all started. So as a city, I've got so much, it's got a really big place in my heart, Liverpool. Yeah.
What do you think? So you talked about networking. Mm-hmm. What do you think it is that typically people don't like about it?
I think a lot of it's the awkwardness that comes with it, the social etiquette. I think the past decade, especially, as our adoption of technology has increased, our natural abilities to communicate and converse with other humans face to face has rapidly decreased, which is causing even more anxiety around networking. And I always say, like, networking, although we call it networking, it's essentially making friends. It's what you do since you're a little kid. It's just given a different name as a grown-up, and it scares people. And a lot of it does go back to us being kids, and no one wants to be left out, and no one wants to be the one in the corner that no one else will talk to. But networking is obviously not like that. It's designed and should be inclusive of everyone. And a good networker will always make sure that there's no one stood alone in the corner, which is a lot of our biggest fears. But I think the problems within networking moving forward are a lot to do with the technology that we're so reliant on in order to communicate. And young people, especially, like I say, they don't know how to read body language because they don't practice doing it. They'll sit next to each other in school and talk through text message, and that doesn't allow them to build empathy. It doesn't allow them to practice reading signals, social cues. So they can't then be expected to go and walk in a room full of strangers and be able to read body language and read social cues, which is such a massive part of in-person networking. Obviously, online networking now eliminates elements of that, because you don't have that room full of strangers that you need to walk into. You log on and there's just squares with lots of faces on, and you get put into a separate little digital room where you can have one-to-one or one-to-a-few. But the problem with that is we're not building those in-depth human relationships. There's still that digital element there. There's also a lot of distractions as well around us. You know, when you go to a networking event in person, you're looking at and talking to that person. You don't have a phone literally next to you. Whereas I'm sat, at a networking event, I've got another screen next to me, which is potentially pinging with a lot of things that are shiny things that I want to look at. I've got my mobile phone, which is also very easy distraction. I've got my watch that could be telling me, oh, so-and-so's just liked your thing. Oh, what have they liked? So we don't have the attention span online as we do when we're in person as well. So I think, there's a lot of pros and cons to both. And I think people do obviously the efficiency of online is fantastic. It gets rid of geographic boundaries. So it's a lot more time efficient for travel. But I think the big thing is that small talk, that awkwardness. But that's what we need. We need that awkwardness. That's what helps us learn. And that's what helps us become better at reading social cues and building up a gut reaction that we have to people, which is something that's really important to be able to gauge whether or not we should or shouldn't, take a job with someone or do business with them. If you've got no practice, at these skills, then they'll just stop. They'll just stop existing. And obviously over the last year, no one's been allowed out to network. So I think by the time we are allowed out in the wild again to network and meet each other face to face, people are going to be rusty. And that's going to create a lot more social anxiety and awkwardness, and we can't shake hands like we used to. So how do we greet each other? And it's just a whole other world of etiquette to try and navigate. Which is going to be really interesting. And I think there'll be a lot of people that will actively put themselves out to do it, but I think there's potentially going to be others that it's easier just to stay at home, which worries me a little bit because I wouldn't want those people to miss out on amazing positive relationships they could have.
No, definitely. So let's go back a little bit. So you are clearly incredibly passionate about networking, as we saw because you were on the Work Pirates gathering last week.
That was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. I will get the videos up eventually. The computer's not my friend at the moment, so so what got you to the point where you were like, you know what, I'm going to set up a business to teach people how to do networking?
I think so. I kind of had quite a big shift personally about 3 years ago. It's coming up to 3 years now. So I've always, worked in networking for years and in lots of different ways, and then took a step back from it. And at the time, about 3 years ago, was working, doing business support, and I loved my job. I genuinely loved that job. It was brilliant. But personally, there was a lot of things that I wasn't happy with. And I felt I could be better. I felt like I was going down a path that was quite negative potentially. So I literally sat and wrote a list, I've still got it, of the things that I would want to change in my life that I wasn't happy with. And I literally wrote the list of things I wanted to change and then what I needed to do in order to achieve those things, and literally turned it into a kind of to-do list, an action list. So I think it'll be next month, 3 years next month since I quit smoking, and I'd smoked 20 cigarettes a day since I was 18. I'm 35 now, so it was a long time. Quit cold turkey, didn't take up vaping or anything, just decided, right, that was it. I'm going to quit smoking. I wanted to be healthier. That had a massive effect on me, and in a really positive way. So 2 months after that, I decided to quit alcohol. So I haven't had alcohol in nearly 3 years now as well. And that was even bigger for me. I didn't realize the negative effect alcohol was having on my life, on me personally, on my relationships. It wasn't like, how a tradition, you think of an alcoholic waking up and needing a drink and, drinking cider in the streets and whatever you might think in your mind. It wasn't like that. It was more for me when I had alcohol, the day after, the anxiety that I had was so bad at the end that day on a night, I thought, right, I need to just have a glass of wine just to chill myself out, because to get rid of the anxiety. And it became this vicious cycle. And I'd either not drink for a week, and then it'd be a social gathering, and then I'd have wine, and then I'd end up having wine every night for a week or two following, and then I have to go, what, I didn't realize. And then, so it just became this up and down of emotionally for me, and the anxiety that came with it. And, alcohol, for, like a lot of people, you have little arguments with your partner, and, I spent the next day feeling like crap, and not being productive, not doing anything. So it got to that point where it's like, I'm not someone that can have just one glass of wine. I never was. If I'm having a glass of wine, I'm having a bottle of wine, and we're making a night of it, and we're dancing in the kitchen till 2 a.m. 6 a.m. back in the day. But it was either all or nothing for me. So I decided to go, right, well, all doesn't work for me. It's not working. It's making me sad. And alcohol should be something that should be enjoyed and be pleasurable and be fun. And it wasn't fun anymore. It was stressful and, horrible. So that's what I decided to quit alcohol. And that has just changed my life completely in such a wonderful way. I remember thinking of how much time I had on my hands, time that I wasn't drunk on a weekend, and time that I wasn't hungover. And we'd go, me and my husband, the bickering, just went, he still drinks, but nowhere near as much, because we do it together. We didn't have 3 years ago, we didn't have kids. So we could go out, if we didn't have anything to do on a weekend, we'd walk into Durham and have wine with lunch and go for a few drinks and make a day of it kind of thing. So I remember sitting and speaking to him before actually I made the decision, and said, look, I think I want to give up alcohol, and it's going to change our lives, because, a lot of the things we do in friendships we've got with other people as well, focus around going out drinking. How do you feel about that? And he was just the most supportive, amazing person. So, yeah, that happened, as I say, 3 years ago. And that gave me, I think, a lot of confidence to then go on and do the rest of my wish list. I took up running, which I'd never done. So I did one of those podcasts, when I do the Guardian's Beginner's Guide to Running. So it builds you up over 8 weeks, which I'm doing again at the minute now, actually. 6 months after giving up alcohol, I fell pregnant with our daughter. So now obviously that's a massive change. And I'm really thankful for my sobriety since having her, but also then lockdown. I know that if I was still a drinker when lockdown had hit, I would have been bad, because of the worry and the anxiety that came with it, but also being in the house all the time. And there's a lot of different elements, I think, that I could, in hindsight, look and say, right, if I was in that place still back then, I know that would have been negative. And I think as a mother, for me, I've seen a lot of drinking culture around mums, that I wouldn't probably have noticed. But, there's a lot of, it's almost like seen as a positive thing for mums to crack open the booze at 5 o'clock. Kids are in bed, crack open, have a wine, have a gin. And as long as, as long as people are happy, that's great. But at the same time, I don't like the idea of it being encouraged, for women especially. And it's opened up this world of, there's a lot of other sober women out there. It's quite empowering to engage with. There's some great books by women and stuff. And just taking control, I think, that gave me. And then while I was on maternity leave, I made that, again, another empowering decision, that I decided I wanted to, if I'm going to be working all these hours away from my little girl, I want it to be doing something I love and what I'm passionate about. And that is networking for me. It always has been. And I knew that I didn't want to run a network again. I've been a full-time networker before. I didn't want to do that again, but I wanted to empower other people to get more from networking and to take it seriously. I think that's my biggest thing. I like to really be strategic in their approach to it and give it the respect it deserves, as a form of marketing. I think it's seen as still quite fluffy, even though people always know, they'll talk about one of the benefits of things, or you'll get a great network and it's really good. But then they don't actually put any time and effort and energy into investing in a networking strategy. They'll just go to the ones with the best buffets, really, or the free booze, which is understandable. Yeah. But yeah, I think having my daughter was a big driver for me, in the hope that I think getting back my identity as well after becoming a mum. I lost myself. I think a lot of women I speak to and, you know, seem to go through the same thing. It almost felt like my husband got to be exactly who he always was, plus a baby. And I always thought I'd be me plus a baby, but it wasn't like that. It was like I was me, and then it got ripped away completely. And I'm like, I've lost my identity. Like, I don't know who I am or anything. All I know is I've got to keep this person alive, and I don't know what I'm doing, but I've got to figure it out. And then I think for me, you know, throwing myself into the thing I'm passionate about professionally and personally, that's not me as a mum or a wife or anything. It's just mine. And I needed that. And I still need that now. You know, she's 18 months old, and, you know, I do get bits of the mum guilt, I think, like most mums, but most of the time I'm like, see ya, off to nursery you go. I'm like, can't wait to get upstairs and get to work, because I'm excited about it and I'm passionate, and I feel like I'm having impact in what I do as well, which is, I think, something that I want to pass on to her, and I want her to see. And whatever she decides to be, I just hope that she is confident enough to go after it. And that's something else, a big driver, I think. Yeah. Again, I've just talked to you.
No, that's lovely.
I threw quite a lot there.
That's good.
But and I think what's really wonderful about for your daughter is the skill of networking is it almost doesn't matter what you're going to be, whatever profession, if you want to be a nurse, if you want to be a teacher, if you want to have your own business, the skill of interacting with people, building great relationships, it all affects how things get done in the world. If you make any business, sales, how a team is cohesively or not, it's such a great skill for anything, I think, that it's valuable for everybody.
Definitely. It's like, even at the park now, I'll be like, go and say hello. Luckily, she is a little extrovert. She loves being around other people. But I mean, teaching our kids, I think I did a talk not long ago for a company that do internships and placements for young people. And I think the skills of networking are so transferable for young people, and it is regardless of what you want to do. You're always going to have to work with people, and networking, like I say, it's making friends. You need to learn how to make friends with people and work together and add value to them. And it's just these nurturing of relationships, and that's across industry sector, job role, position, whatever it is. It's just such a massive skill to have, like you say.
So yeah, we met because of networking.
Yeah,
did you? Oh, did you meet at an event, or did someone connect you?
No, so I went. I'm not going to name any names, but I went to an event myself on a morning one day, and I had such a terrible experience. I was like, right, that is it. I'm going to set my own one up. It was like, so what do? You can't buy my stuff. I'm just going to walk away. Literally, I am just going to walk away from you. It was horrific. So, so I'd seen on LinkedIn that this LinkedIn local thing was a thing. And I was like, oh, do we have one in Newcastle? No, we don't. So I got in touch with Alex Galvez and set it up. And a dude had done it as well. A dude called Chris Ogle also got in touch, and we decided to randomly set it up together. So, yeah, James saw it advertised, came along, and then sort of the best part of 18 months later, we're dating.
It's 3 years ago when we met.
See, networking, it brings people together. It does, in all ways, shapes and forms. The love, magic.
We're actually in the founder of the LinkedIn local movement. She wrote a book, How a Hashtag Changed the World, and we're in that as the romance couple.
Yeah. I love it. That's amazing.
That's hilarious.
I love it.
Yeah, so yeah, we owe networking and terrible networking, and then hopefully positive networking.
Yes.
All
happens for a reason.
To find this one. So that was good.
But I love the element of, there's the downside of networking where you've got those who are in sort of pure sales mode, where it's like, it's introduction, I'm running through my list of criteria, can this person buy anything from me? No, not really. I'll move on to the next person without really realizing. So I think back to this person for Michelle, without realizing the network she has now.
Yeah, this is the thing.
She knows 750 people she could have introduced to peddle your wares to. And you've just missed that opportunity. And it's
you
almost
just screwed it up.
You don't know who is in front of you and what that could lead to.
No.
And that's why I think it's such a skill that's lacking. That could be something as part of the curriculum or in secondary school, for example, and it's the value in it. And I think sometimes it's justifying it. If you're in a salesy position, justifying it to a manager, I'm going to an event, it's 2 hours. Is this really just a jolly James? Are you just going for the bacon sandwiches and coffee? Or is anything going to come from this? But it's almost a longer term play.
It's that long game, isn't it? And I think that's the difficulty in a world where we're so used to being able to measure tangible data instantly from our investment on marketing activities, especially with digital marketing. We can look and have dashboards of what we've spent, what we've put in and what we get back. And we like that. It makes us feel safe. We're in control. But with networking, it doesn't work like that. Like you say, it could be, you meet someone today and not work together for 5 years. But it could be that you meet someone today and they know someone, or they will meet someone in the future, because it's not just when you meet someone, you're talking to them and who they know, you're talking to everyone that they'll ever know as well. So this guy, Michelle, that was obviously like rude to you, not only would you not recommend him to the people that you know now, but you wouldn't do so in the future either.
Never
You'd actually
in a million years.
put them off and send them somewhere else. Exactly.
He's on the list.
And it's having that. He's on the list, exactly.
Not the nice list.
He's
the naughty list.
yeah. He's obviously done himself out of potentially a lot of business, a lot of work, a lot of opportunities, doors closed to him because he didn't have that foresight. And this is where, so if you ever meet someone like that again, say, do you know what? You need to speak to Jeni Smith. She'll teach you how to do it properly.
We should totally do that. We should take you through your cards and just hand them out to people.
Just go, you need this.
I don't mean to be rude, but give this lady a ring.
You're doing it wrong. But yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult to show that return on investment from networking activities when in that sense, like you say, to your boss or what have you. But that's where the work that I'm doing hopefully enables and empowers people to be able to gauge their return on investment using different tools and being able to have a strategic approach in the first place, so that they know that they go into the right events. Because if you go into the wrong events, you're investing all this time and money and it's just dead, it's wasted, it's gone. Whereas, if you can go to few events, but the right ones, you're saving a lot of time, you're saving money, and you're also achieving your networking objectives a lot quicker. So
that's great.
I'll go off on a tangent about that,
That's great.
but yeah, no, it's something that I wish, for me, it would be a dream to be able to work, and I do work with schools, I work with universities, doing a lot with the MBA students or PhDs, researchers, networking for knowledge. It's not always networking for sales, but teaching those skills, which are massively transferable to younger people. I think young kids are great at networking because they don't care. But then once they hit like 10, 11, 12, then it all goes a bit Pete Tong and they start becoming they've got that self-awareness, that awkwardness and hormones go, it's just all scary. So then they lose the natural networking, from early teenage years. But they're teachable skills. People aren't born being natural networkers. You are going to have either introvert, extrovert tendencies, but that just means that different formats are going to suit you better. That's all. So it's not that you can write off networking. It's just that you need to find the right style for you. These are teachable skills that will potentially have massive impact on people's lives, their careers, and their businesses if they decide to launch them. Whatever they want to do, it's going to help.
That's awesome. So we're slightly over time because your conversation has been so interesting. I'm like, I talked to you all day. So we're going to move on to the quick fire question round. So need a jingle in
We
there.
do actually, just thinking that.
We need a
You
jingle.
do need a jingle.
That's the next upgrade.
Cool.
So first question then. What is your favourite type of weather?
Oh, I like sunny but chilly. So, you know, when it's like really bright outside, but it's like cold as well. So you get to wrap up like autumnally with nice like scarves, and like you can go cool fashion, like a bit quirky, a nice coat and that. But you can be outside at the same time. Yeah, I like that.
Sunglasses, hat, scarf and gloves. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. This one's a bit deeper. So what should parents stop teaching their children?
To turn to their phones when they're bored. I think kids need to be bored. They need to learn how to be bored so that they can switch on being creative and switch on learning about themselves and self-reflection. So stop teaching them, usually by example. This is something I try and be really mindful of. My little one's only 18 months, but I'll intentionally, when I'm with her, leave my phone somewhere else so that I'm not tempted, because it is so tempting. Because sometimes playing with the kids really boring as well. Like, just bless her, she's only little, and like it's a bit dull. But I do try and be mindful. So try not to teach her that when she's bored that she needs the screen. She doesn't. She needs to stop and think and reflect and spend time alone and look around her and learn to explore the world and be creative and create games out of things. And so get rid of the screens, learn to be bored.
Awesome.
That's brilliant. I like that one. So question number 3, who would be the most exciting person to meet while networking?
Oh, I've already done this. Well, no, so my most exciting person that I've met networking was Prince William.
Oh, cool.
I met him at a networking event. He approached me, may I add. He approached me and we ended up talking about Smurfs, which was delightful. And I made him laugh out, like he was proper lolling, and then it was on the news because obviously the cameras were there filming. He was opening Proto in Gateshead. I don't know if you know Proto.
Yeah.
So he like opened that. And I was just in the audience. And then after they'd done the opening bit, they were like, oh, do you want to chat to people? And he came over to me and was like, hello. And I was like, oh, no one's prepped me. I did this weird like curtsy thing. And then, he asked about if I'd been, because he'd been in VR. Yes. And he was like, oh, have you been in the virtual reality thing? And it was an orchestra. And I said, I haven't done that, but I've been on a roller coaster and I've chased Smurfs. And then he was like, oh, laughing, no one told me about the Smurfs. And I was like, oh, you have to come back. And we had like proper banter. So he was exciting. I think the most exciting person that I haven't met networking, but I would love to meet Simon Sinek networking, and just have a proper chat with him, with the guy. I've read all of his books. I find him fascinating. I love a lot of his ethos is on business. And, not just, for individual companies, but I think how he, The Infinite Game, I think is a fantastic book, and it's not as well known as Start With The Why, but I think it's equally as valuable. And in the world that we're in with business at the minute, especially within tech, it's encouraged and seen as a positive to start a business, get investment, grow it and sell it, and then move on. Whereas that's not the point of business. It's not about who has the most money wins. And I think there's a lot of lessons there, and I'd love to chat to him, just sit down and have an alcohol-free beer with him and a chat, and find out more about his views on a lot of different things. I think he'd be really interesting.
Cool.
Between us, we should have a off podcast exercise where we try and figure out who are the 6 connections between us.
Between Simon Sinek. Yeah, we'll find him. We'll get there.
And we'll get him on the podcast.
Easy. Do it. I'd be there.
Cool. So
amazing. I'd love that.
The last question we ask everybody is if we could go back to your 18-year-old self, so just getting ready to pop off to Fiji for a bit, what advice would you give her?
I'd probably give her a hug. I'd give her a big hug, and I'd tell her it's all going to be okay. I don't think I'd want to ruin any surprises or send her down. Don't get me wrong, I made a lot of mistakes and messed up a lot of things, like personal, like friendships and things, and I've got regrets, but they've all led to where I'm at now and what I'm doing, and I've learned from them. So I wouldn't want to divert that. And I think every lesson's an important one. So I just tell her that not to worry and it's all going to be fine. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you.
That's brilliant. So for our listeners, if you would like to follow or get in touch with Jeni, best couple of places, go to LinkedIn or Twitter, search for Jeni Smith. Jeni is spelled Jeni, and you will find her without a doubt. It's a lovely, colourful top I think you're wearing in your profile picture.
Yeah, bit red. Yeah, stand out.
But we've really enjoyed chatting today.
It's gone so quickly. Like, no, I want some more time.
It has, it's flown. Thank you so much. I've had such a lovely time. I have literally, I know I've just chatted at you, but it's been lovely. I've had a great time. Really appreciate you inviting us on.
Thanks everyone for listening. Check out all the show notes at inspirationnorth.com. Join us again for the next episode when we'll be chatting to another inspirational person. If you like this, subscribe and tell your friends. If you didn't like this, subscribe anyway and tell everybody.